Hello everybody and welcome along to the first episode of Jess's Paddock Pass. Oh my goodness, it's very weird to say that, but hello, this is season 15, sponsored by Next Level Racing, and we're going to be going through the first 5 rounds of the season, show you who's been doing well, who's not been doing so well, and who we could expect moving teams going forward. I am Jess, and I have a permanent co-host with me for these 2 episodes. Joining me is Kieran McGinley. Welcome, Kieran.
Yeah, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're listening to in the world. Thank you very much, Jess, for having me along. I'm looking forward to getting right into the nitty-gritty details, going through all the telemetry, all the race results, and seeing and decoding what has been a very close season across the board.
Yeah, it has. The first time season entry 3 has been a thing. The second time the 2 stops has been a thing as well. A few people have forgotten it though, but we're going to go through more about that in a minute. So we'll go through each tier as we go along. And then after that, we've got something very special to announce at the end of the talk show. So keep your fingers peeled. It's about this coming Friday, just to give you a clue. So we're going to start with the Podium tier, which is run on 6:30 every Friday night. And I gotta say, for the first 3 rounds, Eva Hannon looked unstoppable, didn't he?
He did. I mean, when you look at it, 3 wins, 3 podiums, of course. No driver of the days, funnily enough, but 2 fastest lap bonus points. I mean, he's been looking really dominant at the start of the season, but from the 4th round, he seems to have tapered off a little bit. I mean, he scored 10 points at round 4, didn't finish. Oh, he finished outside the points, so my apologies, at Singapore last time around.
No, he DNF'd. He DNF'd.
Oh, he did DNF, okay. I just saw 14th and thought, there we go, so no points scored. But it was the same story for one of his close title rivals, Nicky, the Indonesian driver in the Renault. He's been having a great season. I think Renault will be mightily impressed with him so far. 2 podiums, both at the beginning of the round at Bahrain and round 4. But again, he didn't score points either at the last round of the championship. Out of all of them, you've got Astronauti there, the Finnish driver in the Mercedes. He managed to gain, I think it was 6 points. After his 7th place finish at Singapore. So he's moved himself closer to that championship battle. And if my maths proceeds right, 28 points. Of course, those are unofficial because we're recording this before the results are confirmed and the points are updated. But from the looks of it, Astronauti's got himself back into the championship, but with his 2 close rivals not getting into the points or, not finishing, that could have been a real chance for him to get some points on the board. But I mean, you were there, Jess, in that podium tier race in Singapore. It looked absolutely dreadful. Dry start, and then the rain just beckoned.
Yeah, it was difficult to tell you the truth for the drivers. I didn't actually experience the rain because I retired in lap 5, but there we go. But I was in the party with my teammate. Obviously, Pinnacle's here commentator Alex Lilliart is my teammate, and he found it very, very tricky to decide what tyres to go on. So I was just looking at the spectator view, and I was looking to see what tyres was the best to go on, because only a few people on the wet. So I told him to stay on the inters, and it kind of worked out for him. And he got his first points of the season in Singapore, which I was quite chuffed about. But yeah, every single race in Singapore had wet-affected races, which has never happened before. But because obviously it was dry in a Prestige last season. Excuse me. But yeah, it seems to be, it's been a popular thing in Singapore this season for wet races at some kind.
Absolutely. And one thing we should say about the podium tier was that Jonas Albrecht, who's higher in the championship, got himself 2nd place. He was, before this round, 4th place in the championship. Just Chris, the Dutchman in the Red Bull, went on to win in Singapore to take his 2nd win of the season. So they've both got themselves straight back into the running for the championship. And I think right now, going into the halfway point of the podium tier, that is probably going to be a 5-way battle for the title. And to be honest with you, I know your next question, Jess, who would you pick to be the title favourite? I don't know, to be honest with you. The 5 of them have proved that they are great drivers and they've got wins between them. I don't think Nicky and Astronauti have got wins just yet. Neither has Albrecht. But they've got podiums, they've got fastest laps, and I think they're all great drivers, and it's going to be a decision of whether consistency will get you the key or just finishing on the top step more will give you the key.
Well, I gotta say, Chris has mightily improved since his first couple of races, because obviously Bahrain wasn't his strong suit. He only got 1 point in that. And in China, obviously, no, not China, France, he didn't finish. But China onwards is where he started to take off. He started last place and finished second. And obviously in Austria he won, and he got pole as well in the wet to dry qualifying. And you know, there was a few questions spread around him. Oh, is he going to be the right person to be in podium tier? Should he be moved up and stuff like that? But the only person that beat Chris's time on Friday in Singapore was Louis. Nobody in a position tier has beaten him. So, you know, it was a 134 something I remember. So I'm not going to rule out Chris yet for the title fight. I think early maths, I think it could be potentially either Hannah versus Chris for the title.
I mean, just looking at that podium tier race, I mean, the race went on for 1 hour, 1 hour and 39 minutes. I mean, just for the drivers out there, that must have been so taxing, and just to get to the end of the race must have been a huge relief in itself. But I have to say, the Alfa Romeo drivers, Dexter and Riley Byers coming from 19th place to finishing 5th. That was a tremendous drive from him there, and to get some good points on the board for both himself and Alfa Romeo. They've really come along in that race. But I think one of the headlines of the podium tier is what's gone on at Ferrari. Obviously, the Schumacher name returning to Ferrari hasn't quite gone to plan.
Nope, it hasn't. To be honest, he hasn't had a great season. To be honest, his season is pretty much over now. As he's got a season ban, as he did not finish in the first round in Bahrain. I can't remember what lap he retired on, but he caused an incident which forced him to have a quali ban in France, which he didn't serve quite well. So then he got a race ban in China, and then in Austria he caused a safety car lap 1 incident, which forced him to get 8 penalty points, which means you can't have more than 8 penalty points in the season. That means Schumacher is disqualified from the season, which is a bit of a shame, really, for Ferrari. Ferrari are not having the best season. Aaron either I think there was one time he didn't turn up. He DNF'd in Austria, and I believe he DNF'd in Singapore as well. The only time he's got points is the first round and the second round, so I think Aaron could be the talking point in terms of moving teams. I was going to talk about Stevie, but he only joined last in Singapore, and he finished, so fair play to him. It's his first race back, but so he'll probably stay. But Aaron, I've got to say, is the big guns will probably move out and probably go into a lower team and be replaced by the likes of Jonas or Nicky, maybe.
Yeah, and it's always that nervous time when you have to sit down with the team bosses and discuss what's happened in the season. And because it is a short season, I mean, there's only been these 5 races so far. The team's got to make a decision of whether you're going to hit those targets. Obviously, with a team like Ferrari, they're expecting wins, they're expecting great performances, they're expecting, attendance as well. So it's whether or not, Aaron has done the team to keep him, basically. I wonder what the Ferrari boys are gonna say about that, and what ultimately they're gonna decide.
Yeah, I think I've just thought of something as well. Since the Alpha boys are performing so well, maybe if Jonas doesn't apply for another team, maybe we could see a switch from one of those drivers to possibly go from Alpha to Ferrari. I mean, they've been getting top 6s quite consistently for the past few rounds. Maybe it could be a kind of switch from Aaron, maybe Aaron and Riley. I've got to say, Riley has done brilliantly, consistently, or maybe Dexter as well for the last few races, but I don't know. It is a tough call, really, to be honest, because I think there's a few that should move teams. Obviously, you can't compare one to in a lower team that just have to finish. If they finished every single race, then they're absolutely fine. If they haven't, then questions do need to be answered there as well. So just like for Mr. Stim, obviously Mr. Stim has gone as well. So yeah, just a lot to think about there. And yeah, it is quite tough. I wouldn't want to be in Jamie's shoes right now.
Well, that's the only thing. Who do Ferrari, if they're thinking of replacing, who do they go for? They've got the likes of Nicky and Albrecht in the Renault and the McLaren, respectively, who've got themselves some great chances. They've got podiums between them as well, and I think Albrecht's performance in Singapore isn't going to go unnoticed. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a Ferrari official knocking on his door in the next couple of days.
Yeah, of course. Well, obviously, he can't apply unless someone gets booted out of that seat. I think Aaron is going to be the only change, I think, for Podium, potentially. I don't know, but we was thinking about Catboy Keith finished every race in Haas, so he's absolutely fine, and he's got his first points of the season, so I think that saved him in that respect as well, and I'm just trying to think of who else would possibly move down as well. And it is tough, I've got to say, but... we talked about the highlights. Who has disappointed you in the podium tier? Who do you think should do better? And you are allowed to say me if you want to, Kieran. You're allowed to say me.
I think there needs to be more from Indecisive. Obviously, Williams are one of the most successful teams in one hub racing, and to see one of their cars down, one of the cars at least, not get scoring a single point. Meanwhile, the teammate there of King Gen, 14 points so far. I think Indecisive has got to be pulling out those performances, at least getting into the points and trying to help Williams go a little bit more up the table. And do you know what? I was expecting more from the Battle of the Commentators. A point separates yourself and Liliart. So maybe in the second half of the season, you can both let us get the popcorn out and see what happens there.
Yeah, my season hasn't gone very, very well, to be honest. It felt weird going from the box to the actual racing seat, because I'm used to interviewing people every week. I'm used to shouting at them every week, and now Luke and Liam are shouting at me every week. And I think I could do better. I think Alex is now beating me in the battle now. He scored 2 points on Friday, and I've only scored 1. I haven't even got a top 10 finish. But yeah. Don't worry, Kieran. Well, we won't let you down at some point. All the worst tracks are done. I've got to say, in the calendar, I've done all my worst tracks. The best tracks are yet to come. I was going to say about Austria, but Austria just went to pot really. So yeah, but yeah, I'll say Indecisive will probably improve there. Truth, I think there's more to see from Truth. He's had a bit of unluckiness, I think. He's had a retirement and he's only got 2 points, but there was one retirement that wasn't his fault. But unfortunately, in Singapore, there was a retirement that was his fault, and he binned it.
He qualifying P9 as well. Big opportunity to score some really, really valuable points early on in the race. So that is up there. But like I say, and Indecisive, expect those team bosses to tell them, look, you've got to try and improve in the second half of the season board, because once you score those points, you'll find momentum and you'll get that drive again to do even time around, and hopefully for them they can build momentum to the season.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if they want to stay in their teams, they've got to, really. Williams has been prestigious, and there was a few other teams that have been prestigious as well. So we wish them the best of luck. And obviously for some of them, they can turn it around when they go to Canada. Maybe they'll have a better start of the season, who knows. And there's one driver that I've got to mention who's had an unlucky start to the season, but since Austria, he's really turned it around. If you can agree with me, it's got to be TC. He's got 2 podiums in a row. That must be saying something.
It is, yeah. And like I said, when you start to build that momentum going forward, you really can start to see those performances come in. I mean, yeah, absolutely. 3, both of them third places. Happy at getting those podiums in the first place, and especially such a hectic race like Singapore, when the rain comes down halfway through the race. It did brilliantly there to just keep it on the track, to keep as well, which would no doubt have helped in that one, and just to get it to the line with those podiums. He has turned it around. Let's see what he can do for the season.
Yeah, I think that's it for Podium tier. And if you want to find out more about when they race at 6:30 every Friday night with Luke and Liam in the commentary box. And best of luck to all the drivers for the remainder of the season as well. So let's move on to position tier now. And before we go on to the big talking point of the season, we've got to talk about the possible championship favourites, I've got to say. Janel, I've got to say first, winning 3 races in a row with a 4th place in Bahrain. He looked unstoppable, obviously, until Singapore, but, you know, his consistency, it was just there.
He's done a great job so far, and at the halfway, pretty good. I mean, Danestar as well, never star, absolutely not. His performances come when you expect them as well. So you got to be on his toes, sure he doesn't get those performances. But Osprey with the win in Singapore as well. That's his first. One of those drivers that unfortunately are 2-stop rule at one of the rounds, and it's so easy to when you're caught up in the madness there.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of them pretty much forgot. I felt bad for Carlsbury because it was the wet conditions. Some people didn't know that you needed to pit twice in the wet conditions in France. And, you know, maybe that possibly costed him a chance of actually maybe in a chance for the championship. But Danestar has had a bad showing the last few races. Obviously, he won in Bahrain, but I don't know. It is going to be tough. I think it's going to be one of the closest tiers of the season because any small mistake, even in a short season, can really make or break with the championship. And Janel's made a mistake as well now, so I can't call it really. But Carlsbury with that disqualification, that is potential maybe 4th place, 5th place he was going to get out of the window, and that he's already got a 50-point gap now to Janel after, obviously it was after Austria, but it could have been less if he got his act together and pitted twice.
I have to say as well, I don't think he participated in the first 2 rounds of the season, but Malloy is having a fantastic season. 2 podiums in 3 races. He'll be sitting on 36 points, pretty much in the top 5 of the table. So be interesting to see in fewer rounds raced. He'll only be able to have the opportunity to race at 6 rounds this season, but it'll be interesting to see where he manages to finish in the championship. Even if he's not winning the championship or anything like that, that's going to set a huge precedent even for next season for the teams. They'll be keeping a close eye on him and close tabs towards the end of this season. I'm interested to see how he gets on.
Yeah, he was a returning driver, of course, and he had a few stats to his name, but not a lot. And, you know, he did brilliant on his comeback. It was a shame that he spun in Austria. I think it was in the middle of the race. I think he spun on his own accord. Apart from that, he's got 2 P2s and some good poles to show as well. I mean, I was watching the race at Singapore towards the end, and Malloy just looked in control compared to the rest of his rivals. Obviously, Janel was only in 3rd place, but Janel only 3rd place. That's still good going from the Toro Rosso driver. But even though Malloy's only joined us, I believe it was China, don't count him out for a potential seat somewhere else if drivers are not pulling their weight.
Yeah, and that's the thing about when you get to this halfway point in the season, you can find that some of these teams in One Hub can be very ruthless. If you're not getting the results, they won't be afraid to make the switch if they've got the drivers available. I think for Chris and for Lukey, they've had some good results, but it's been a little bit too inconsistent, I think. Obviously, Chris got the podium at the first round of the season. He finished outside of the points, the last of the finishes, I believe, at Singapore. And, you know, it's just a little bit too inconsistent for Chris. He might find himself falling down the table after this race, especially with Malloy's podium last time out as well. He's just got to be careful about those performances. And I wonder what Ferrari's patience are going to be like with only that 1 podium to his name.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, Chris was doing well last season with Lukey. They've got on like a house on fire, but even in the post-race interviews in the media day, they both spoke to us and said that they weren't as confident about their pace because the lineup is a lot quicker than last season. Probably the closest positions here One Hub has ever had. I mean, some of them have been in Pinnacle last season and there's only 3 tiers. So, to be honest, I think Lukey has saved himself a seat due to his 4th place in Austria. But Chris, I'm not so sure. So, we could see it switch from the top guys, maybe Malloy or Janel or maybe Carlsbury perhaps, on getting that Ferrari seat, because they're getting consistent podiums, they're getting the results, and that's what they need to get a top 6 or more, mostly wins. So, yeah, I think Chris needs to get a wake-up call and prove to the team bosses why he needs to stay at Ferrari, I've got to say.
Absolutely. And this was always going to be a little bit of a bottleneck tier, wasn't it? We're going from 4 tiers to 3 tiers this season.
Yeah.
I think the middle tier was always going to be that awkward one where you've got the combination of the top guys going down a tier, the bottom guys going up a tier. So you're going to have that mixture of the two caliber of drivers. And some drivers are going to struggle. That is unfortunate, but they've just got to keep going, keep pressing themselves on. And I'm sure Ferrari will have sat down with both of them and had a conversation. There's just other drivers that I'd like to point out as well. Scorpion, King J, and Iceman. I've been a little bit disappointed by them. There's 2 points between the 3 drivers, with Scorpion and King J scoring the points there. Iceman pointless so far this season. He didn't start at the 2nd and 3rd round of the season. And if I'm just having a look back, I don't think he finished 2 races, because he got 12th place at Singapore, but as well he finished at the Bahrain Grand Prix, but I think it's been a bit disappointing for those 3.
I think it's been the podium tier curse, I must say, because last season the podium tier champions didn't do as well in position. Even Austin predicted Iceman to be a championship favourite, and he's all the way down in last place. I mean, again, it may be due to the fact that it's high calibre of drivers, or it may just be he's not used to driving at high level. Maybe the pressure is just getting to him, perhaps, and maybe next season he might be back to a lower tier again, back where he belongs, and start consistently again, or it might just be a seesaw kind of effect. But yeah, I think he really needs to improve to show. Luckily, he's in a lower team anyway. He did the right thing picking a lower team in the contract signings, because he knew he wasn't going to score high anyway. So, but he did not finish one race, and obviously with an Alpha, I can't remember what tier teams there are in Alpha Male. I think they're in the bottom team, but you got to finish pretty much every race, and also obviously attend. I think he's only finished 1, so that is not looking good signs for Iceman if he wants to stay at Alpha. He may be in maybe the Haas seat if he's not careful.
Well, we'll see how it goes, because I think Haas have been doing okay. I mean, Cam in the Haas's there have 25 points in the constructor standings so far, at least before the Singapore round goes ahead. So I think they've been doing okay. I mean, Cam got P7. And the other Cam got P4 from 16th on the grid. So Cam with a K doing well in the harsh conditions of Singapore. Cam with a C starting from P9 getting up to P7. So decent performances from the Haas boys, I have to say. I think, to be honest with you, Haas are going to be quite content about how this season has gone so far. They've got 2 drivers that are improving, and I think they'll be very happy with that so far. Before the Singapore Grand Prix, they were on 159 points, a good round of points, a little bit of a gap between themselves and Renault, but they're 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. I think they'll be very happy with that so far.
Yeah, I think they will. And despite the fact you got to finish every race, they finished most of them, and if they haven't finished, they've learned to build on that, and hopefully that is something the team bosses will look at and say, right, they haven't finished a few races, but they've consistently scored and improved from the races they didn't finish. So I think the 2 Haas boys will definitely be safe there and have nothing to worry about. I don't think they'll be moving teams. I think they've got a good dynamic, just like the Alpha boys in Podium. I think they work together well as well, and it's just, I don't know how Austin and Owen distinguished them at the start, but I think they called him American Cam and British Cam to start with, but I think they've called him, one of them Cam K, one of them Cam. I think that's what distinguished the two. But yeah, I can see a huge improvement from them. But any other standouts do you see from position that we need to talk about?
I think we need to talk about the lowly Red Bull and Mercedes down there of Harry and TB. It's not been a great season for them at all so far. I think that'll be one example where the team bosses will be sitting down and seriously thinking about the last half of the season. Harry and TB have to prove to the team bosses that they are the right drivers for the job. I mean, you've got Red Bull there, or one of the Red Bulls in Danestar, trying to challenge for the title. Ivan, the French Mercedes driver, they're in the sort of top 6 at the moment before the Singapore results get added up. So it's been a bit lackluster. They've got to try and turn this around, and they've got to convince the team bosses that they can stick to their contract as well.
Yeah, Harry has left the league as of Singapore, so he won't be taking part. But replacing him was Wenting, who has moved down from Pinnacle due to the fact that he wants to try no assist. But surprisingly, I think looking at the Singapore results, I think Red Bull will be pretty pleased with how Tim is performing in position, despite the fact it's his first race with no assists.
Absolutely, and when you take the shackles off of no assist, you can easily find yourself spinning at every single high traction corner that you need to. But in the end, it's like getting your training wheels off the bike, like your little stabilizers. Once you get them off, you feel a little bit loose, a little bit nervous and tentative. But eventually, once you get those hours in, you start to get the hang of it, and eventually you become quicker than you were before without those or with those assists, I should say. So hopefully it's an upward curve, because once you get those assists off, there's a much more of a sense of freedom. Results come with it.
Yeah, I agree. So well done to Tim Wenting, of course. I think he's done the right thing, and I could see huge improvement for him. And I think obviously it's too early to change teams for him. And I think Red Bull, it would have been a switch, I think, between Jano and Harry. But since the fact Tim is doing so well in Red Bull, I think Tim, unless he wants to change team, I think Tim will be staying there. It is a tough order. Usually position in the past has been a tier where a lot of teams have been switched. I don't think many people are going to budge from their current teams. I think most of them are going to stay as it is. I think the only one potentially that can move teams is TB. I think TB hasn't performed, whereas I think everybody else will just about stay safe. I think TB is going to be the one on everyone's lips. Is he going to stay in Mercedes or is he going to go?
I think if there's a driver opportunity, then Mercedes have got a serious dilemma on their hands. But I think TB's going to have to prove himself in that team meeting to say, look, I am the right driver for the job. Give me a chance.
Exactly, because otherwise we've got either see Carlsbury or Jano or Danestar getting it. And after Danestar's result in Singapore, he got an 8th place. That is not good, considering obviously he was in a battle in Austria as well, which was really good with Konzo, I must say. But there was a few questions with him. Could this be the sign of him declining for being a championship favourite? He was the championship favourite going into position, and now he's starting to slip through his fingers. And like we said, it is a short season, and he hasn't been winning since the first round. And the likes of Jano and Carlsbury, they've been winning every other race apart from Bahrain. So, yeah, Danestar needs to pick up the pieces as well, because it was the first time that his Red Bull teammate has actually outscored him.
Yeah, but like I say, never you do that is the moment he comes, expecting him to get those performances in the final half of the season, and hopefully he can prove me right.
Hopefully he can prove us all right, to be honest. So fingers crossed about that. And I'm just trying to see. I think we talked about most of the drivers so far. Zippy has had a few DNFs as well too. That's a bit of a shame. But I've got to say, another championship favourite who we thought was going to do well. He's only got one podium. Brettster. He was a big talking point. He had many incidents at the start of the season as well, and a few penalty points as well. He's 9th at the moment, but surely he should have been expected to be a little bit higher up, challenging the likes of Jano, Danestar and Carlsbury, right?
I think so. I think he'll be slightly disappointed, considering Konzo, his teammate there, has before the Singapore Grand Prix almost double his points. But there's still the second half of the season. You can't rule yourself out until it's literally impossible to win the championship. So I think for Brett, there's still time. He's in a team that's much more forgiving and in a much better position. It's a prestigious team, but it's also a very patient team. It's more of a reliable team. If you're not performing well, normally Williams are the first team to get their arms around your shoulders there and give you that motivation that you need. So he's in the right atmosphere. Okay, results haven't gone his way so far, but do you know what? He has been quite a consistent point scorer this season, and I think Williams there are going to be putting their arm around his shoulder and saying, look, season's not over yet. Just have a better second half of the season. And do you know what? I think he will. It's all about getting that momentum on your side. Once you have the momentum on your side, you're more confident, and more confidence means normally you get those better performances out on track.
Yeah, definitely. And before we move on to Pinnacle, it's gonna be a tough one. Who would you say has a better shot out of the position tier guys to win the title?
That's a good question. I think Jarno is the favourite. I mean, 3 wins before the Singapore Grand Prix, and then even in Singapore, he got a podium as well. He's only finished off the podium once, and that was at Bahrain.
And he got 4th.
And he got 4th, yeah, so exactly. I think he is a championship favourite at the moment, but like I said, the moment you do is the moment he just surprises you. So Jarno is just going to keep putting in those performances, and he should have.
Yeah, so that was the position tier discussion. There was quite a lot to discuss for in the position tier, and we'll now move on to the big guns, the creme de la creme of One Hub Racing, the Pinnacle tier, and it has been a good one. I think you had a pleasure of commentating the first rounds in Bahrain, and you just got an experience on what to expect for the season. And I can tell you, it's going to be a pretty close one between Louis and Danny.
Absolutely. I mean, I already know about Lewis. He's one heck of a quick driver, and he's proven that once again. He's 3 wins this season so far, if you count the Singapore Grand Prix. 4 pole positions out of 5 before the Singapore Grand Prix. You know, a driver of the day, 3 fastest lap bonus points as well. He's just been in great form. Danny as well is a really great driver as well. 13 points between them going into that Singapore Grand Prix. I don't think it was the race that Danny wanted at Singapore. I was just looking over the results there.
He didn't take part. He couldn't make it.
He didn't take part. So that's just going to widen the gap between them by, a huge 25 points. And as you say, in such a short season, those 25 points are going to be vital in this championship hunt. But yeah, Lewis has just been doing a great job so far. He's 3 wins in. Weirdly, though, the only time he's been on the podium is when it's on the top step, which I don't think is a bad stat. I don't think he'll be sighing at that one when he sleeps at night. But I think it's just been a great season from him so far, but he can't let that complacency kick in. He's had a few performances, especially at round 1, at round 4, where it was just off the mark quite slightly. They were still 5th and 4th respectively, which is better than I could do in a Pinnacle tier race, but it's just going to make sure that complacency doesn't slip in underneath and just really go for it in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the controversial. Well, it wasn't really a controversial moment, but it was in Austria where the final few laps we thought Louis and Danny were going to be first and second in the race, and it turned out they both had contact, and then Danny dropped way down the field and lost his front wing, and I think Louis had to pit as well. I think the safety car saved them there a little bit as well. But it just goes to show that you have the battles like in Bahrain, where it's absolutely amazing. I think you can comment on that in a minute, but you have stuff like Austria where you get a bit complacent and you just tangle a bit of wheels, and then that's your race over. And the likes of, say, Toxic Tomato could pick up the piece, and also Midnight as well. So, yeah, luckily they both apologise. So, luckily they're on good terms at the moment by the looks of things. But, they can't make that many mistakes, in particular as they get to the last 5 races of the season.
Absolutely. A couple of drivers that I want to sort of bring to the light here. I think Rafa. It's been a decent season for him so far. He's a good driver, and he's been a fantastic teammate to Lewis as well. Both the Williams drivers before the Singapore Grand Prix, because obviously they're not confirmed results as of yet. But Lewis, 75 points, Rafa 39. So Williams are doing pretty well in the Constructors' Championship so far. So he's been a good teammate so far. And he's got a podium to his name before the Singapore Grand Prix as well. So, yeah, I think it's been a decent season for him. Paris as well in the Mercedes. I mean, yeah, again, he's playing second fiddle to Danny at the moment, which is, I know a driver of his talent would not want to be doing that at this moment in time. And the fact that Toxic Tomato is between the two drivers at the two top places is going to frustrate Mercedes, especially. They want to be beating Williams. This is their backyard, and they don't want Williams to take yet another Drivers' and Constructors' Championship to widen that gap between them. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic towards the second half of the season. And I wonder which team will come out on top. I think it could be a scenario where you could have one team winning the championship, but the constructor that wins the Drivers' Championship is completely different, just like the late 90s when it was McLaren and Ferrari. You could see a similar scenario here.
Exactly. I mean, we've got two Williams in the top four, and obviously two Mercedes in the top five. So anything can happen with that respect. And obviously, Toxic Tomato with that, the only person apart from Danny and Louis to get the win this season, that would help his team pretty much as well. And no Red Bull. I was expecting Red Bull to do well. No Red Bull is in the top 6, which is what they expect. Maybe this could be signs that we could see changes there as well. Obviously, Midnight, I mean, he had a podium in Austria, and he actually got a second place in Singapore as well. So he is starting to pick up. So I think with those two podiums, he'll definitely be safe. But I've got to talk about Ollie in the Red Bull. He moved up. Well, technically he stayed where he is, but if that's the case, he technically did move up. He only scored 4 points this season. He DNF'd in Singapore as well. I'm sure that Midnight would want to do. Ollie wants to do better for sure.
I mean, yeah, in the tier of the same name last season, and of course, when you go from 4 tiers to 3, that you got to take this with a pinch of salt. But in the Pinnacle tier last season, Flavel finished 3rd, and he's currently 14th in the championship right now with 4 points. And I think Red Bull making that signing of Flavel from McLaren was a signing of huge intent, but it's just not worked for whatever reason. And well, Red Bull will be hoping for a better showing from Flavel in the second half of the season. Lakitu as well in the Ferrari. It's been a bit lackluster for Ferrari so far this season. Zach there in the Ferrari, sixth place in the championship before Singapore, 34 points to his name. He did have a Driver of the Day award as well, so that could be slightly in his favour when it comes to satisfying the contract demands of Ferrari. But the Ferrari team will be hoping and trying to make sure that they have a better second half of this season.
And they're already having a better end to the season as Lakitu got his first podium in Singapore. He obviously started pole, but he wasn't expecting to win anyway. So he said in the pre-race interviews, if you want to check that out, you can go on the Media Day forums. He said he wanted top 3 in qualifying, he got pole. He said he wanted top 3 in the race, he got 3rd place. So, like he said, momentum. If momentum carries on, hopefully we could see Ferrari on the rise for Lakitu. So I think Lakitu is safe in Ferrari due to the performance he had in Singapore. I think that was a saving grace for him.
Yeah, and so, when it comes to one hub, recent form can very much heavily favour you, especially when you're at a top team, because it's proving to them and showing them that even in the adversity you've had in some performances that haven't been quite on par, to then come back with a podium and a pole position at that. I mean, Ferrari will be looking at that when he's sitting down with the team. Westy in the Renault as well. It's been a little bit of a tough season, I think, for Westy. He is a good driver, but obviously when the top tier and the middle tier from last time out sort of bunch together into one new top tier, it's always going to be a little bit of a struggle. But I think, he didn't finish at the first race of the season, got himself 4 points at the 3rd round. So I think there are chances for him to have the results. He's in a Renault there, so they'll obviously be expecting mid-table performances, especially in the Constructors' Championship. And that's something that they're going to be slightly worried about. 7 points before Singapore for the Renault team. So they'll be slightly concerned about that one, and they'll be trying to get both Westy and Josh into the same room as each other and say, look, we need a better second half of the season from you both.
Yeah, Josh hasn't performed very well either. He only finished in the 3rd round, which was China, and even China was difficult in itself. And to finish first, you first have to finish, and you any team would expect to finish. And We also talked about Ferrari and Red Bull. We got to consider Josh as well in the possible firing line for teams as well. He could be in the danger zone of being replaced, but I don't think that many people in the bottom teams or even the top teams would want to move to a lower team or higher team of Renault. Maybe Skivan may want to join in that, because Skivan had a good result in Singapore. He bounced back quite a lot actually, but yeah, I think it's not about if Josh is the one to want to stay. I think it's about if anyone wants to move to that team. I doubt anyone would want to move to Renault. I don't think.
Well, I mean, speaking of Skeven there, I mean, 4th place last time out at Singapore. That's 12 valuable points that he's got himself there, which moves him pretty much halfway up the driver's title, having not scored a point so far. But obviously, he did join in round 4, so that's a little bit harsh for me to say that. However, he's done a good job in trying to quickly get himself into an Alfa Romeo, get himself into gear, and make sure those results come first. And with a 4th place, that's not going to go unnoticed for sure.
Yeah, I think he is the one who's been mega improved in Singapore. I mean, it's one of the hardest tracks on the calendar, and he took P4 and he stayed there. So good job to Skivan. And White Fountain, the position tiered champion. We've got to talk about him. He has been mainly last for most of the races this season, last of the finishes, I might add. He's finished every single race, and in the Toro Rosso, they do expect you to finish every single race. I think they don't expect anything more apart from to finish every race. So he's meeting that expectation. But the fact that they're going to enjoy White Fountain scoring some cheeky points in Singapore, and to be honest, I think in the chat on Friday night in the YouTube chat, I got a bit excited that White Fountain scored his first point of the season. I think he deserves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. White Fountain is a good driver. I have to say that right now. And I think the 1 point he scored at Singapore will give him some real confidence. As you say, he's been finishing the races. He's stayed in them. Adversity's got to him, but he still pulled out a great performance at Singapore to get him the point on the board. And finally, getting a point on the board, that will be a huge relief to him for sure. So he'll be hoping that he can just carry that momentum through and keep trying to score points where others falter. He is a good driver. He's a very consistent driver as well. He just needs to find that pace, and Toro Rosso will be absolutely delighted that he's finally got a point on the board. But when he's compared to his teammate Cohen, 4 points from him before the Singapore Grand Prix, and it stayed at 4 points, I believe.
Yeah, he DNF'd Cohen in Singapore.
So the battle between those two will be one to watch as well, because they'll both want to prove that they're the better Toro Rosso driver. And in the second half of this season, that's going to be really, really important. Toro Rosso will be egging their drivers on basically and saying, look, you've both now got points, show us what you can do. And I think White Fountain, with the point at Singapore, has the little bit of a psychological advantage. I wonder if he can use that to his advantage in the final half of this season.
I hope so, because if he can carry that momentum up, he's I can't remember what the next track is. It's Canada, and Belgium is racing this season as well, his home track, so he's going to get some confidence there. And yeah, I think that could benefit him more than hurt him actually as well. And Ash Best doing very well as well in the racing points, and he scored a few points here and there. He scored 8 points, I believe, in Austria when he first returned. I think he's got another 8 points in Singapore as well. But he wasn't expected to do that high, but from a lower team, I think that's done very well. Obviously, Ash Best had no choice of team. He got moved to a team, so yeah, I think Racing Point will still be delighted, but I think Ash Best knows he's a top tier driver. He wants better than 6th places every race.
Yeah, I think so. I think Racing Point as well are delighted they've got a driver of Ash's quality there to just get themselves up that constructors table a little bit more. Lyon there before the Singapore Grand Prix was on 1 point. I don't think he scored any points. He
resigned. He resigned.
There you go then, you see, Jess, you got to be slapping me on the wrist if I don't get a fact right. But yeah, so they'll be hoping that they can get up the table and get some good consistent points on the board. And with someone like Ash Best, they'll definitely get that. It's now going into that second half of the season, and again, that M word again, momentum. That's the most important thing. If you've got the momentum at the halfway stage, there's a very good chance you can keep scoring those points and be as consistent as possible when you get to the final round of the season. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the final half for Pinnacle. It's going to be tough, but who would you? I'm going to ask the same question again. Out of potentially the top 5, maybe, who would you see would take the Pinnacle tier title? Can Louis go a second title in a row, or can Danny just snatch it at the end?
I think it's Lewis's to lose at this point. I mean, 3 wins in a season out of 5 so far. I mean, it would be very unlikely for him to lose that title at this moment in time. What he's got to focus on is basically having the confidence and not having that complacency slip in that he starts to underperform. He cannot make mistakes. Danny not turning up last race. Toxic Tomato showed that in Danny's absence, he can try and get some results on the board. Okay, 8th place last time out might not help that. But Lewis has got a huge lead now in the title race. He's got to use that to his advantage in the last half of the season. Like I said before, it's Lewis's to lose.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think if Lewis doesn't win the title, I'm going to be extremely shocked. And I think Toxic, is going to be the one that will nip them at their heels if anyone makes a mistake as well. But it's gonna be tough, I think. But that is it, talking about all the tiers. But before we go on to the huge surprise of the session, I think we're going to talk about all 3 tiers in general now. As to who do you think will be the driver that will be the most improved by the end of the season? Who do you think will be shining? So as we talked about Pinnacle tier, we'll start with that first. We'll go backwards this time. Who do you think could have a better second half of the season than the first? Do you think?
That's a very good question, and I'm going to make up some stuff whilst I try and think of a good answer for that. I think when you say most improved, it implies that they got off to a rocky start and are just fantastic at the end of the season.
Not necessarily, but yeah.
I think Toxic Tomato is showing himself to be a potential, he's already won a race this season. He's had plenty of podiums as well. Okay, Singapore didn't work out. He scored a handful of points there, didn't finish at Bahrain. But I tell you what, he's one to watch, I think, when it comes to One Hub. I think Rafa and Paris have the potential to turn this season around for both of them. Whether they can meet that challenge is another question. I know Paris is quick. He is a quick driver. But for some reason, it just doesn't click. Whenever he comes to One Hub, something just doesn't quite add up. He got himself 2nd place at Bahrain, and me commentating over that, and I thought, finally, the curse is over. But a couple of mid-table results there in the points. It didn't start at round 4 as well. And then just having a look at the previous results, I don't think he got into the top 10, whereas Rafa did. So that's going to be the huge thing for both of them. They have the potential to turn around their seasons. It's whether they will be able to. And if at some point both teams decide, actually, we want you to run number 2 to the championship contenders.
Yeah, it's going to be Mercedes versus Williams for the constructors, I think. So if the likes of Paris and Rafa want to do well, they got to prove to them that they want to score some points as well. But I could see the likes of Midnight and Ash Best probably start to improve, I think, this season. I mean, Midnight's already starting to improve compared to his recent results, because obviously he had an 8 points in round 1, a DNF in I can't remember what track it was, France, and then he didn't start in China, and he got podiums ever since after that. So I can see him make a big launch, and obviously Midnight did brilliantly last season in the top tier as well. And yes, he's 7th at the moment, but I think I can see him climb up the standings as well, I think. So yeah, another person to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on there, I think. Another driver I think we just need to keep our eye on is Harry in the Haas there. No points in the first 2 rounds of the season, then got 6 points at rounds 3 and 4, and then got himself a 9th place at Singapore. So I reckon there's a good potential second half of the season for Harry. If he keeps himself in the points, he's got a good chance of finishing top table, and that will be a huge relief and a huge achievement for him to build on for next season.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think those are the drivers to watch out for. We'll move on to precision tier now. I've got quite a few in mind, but I'll start off with one who I think can possibly improve. The American Cam. I'm going to call him the American Cam K. I think he's going to have a good second half of the season. He had a good result in Singapore in fourth place, and he's shown that he can climb his way up the field and score decent when he needs to. He got 10 points in Bahrain as well, and obviously the race ban, the disqualification due to the fact he couldn't two-stop, I think hasn't affected him that much, so I can see him improving. Scorpion, I think, can improve as well. He got a 6th place in Singapore as well. I think this could be a comeback for Mark. I think he was delighted that he got his result there as well, and I think the other Cam as well, I think he can possibly get some good points towards the end of the season and possibly help Haas score some better points in a position tier than most seasons. So, yeah, I think those are the drivers I think we need to watch out for.
I think Lukey as well in the Ferrari, he got 12 points at round 4, having not scored points in the first 2 rounds of the season, and he got himself 9th place at Singapore as well. He's got the potential. You know, he is a champion of One Hub as well. Let's not forget that. He knows how to win a title. So he's got to work together with Ferrari. He's got to work with Chris as well to basically score as many points as possible. Ferrari are really on the back foot in this constructors' hunt. It's not over till it's over, and they'll be hoping these last 5 races they can get the strategies right and they can just get consistently in the points and perhaps even on the podium, just like he almost did at the 4th round of the season, Lukey.
Yeah. I felt glad that he didn't get it, but it was glad for him to almost go to that way. So I could definitely see them there as well. So those are precision tier. And now we'll move on finally to podium. There's quite a lot of people who I can see improve. And I've got to say, I think if you could agree with me, I think we could see a massive improvement for the 2 Alpha boys, I think. I think they can climb their way up the standings, I think. They've got a good team. And I know they work very well together in parties.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to be watching out for, especially Riley Byers as well. Had a fantastic result, 5th place at Singapore. That will give him the boost that he needs through to the second half of the season. Absolutely watch out, drivers. I think as well, Chris is definitely to watch. 5th place in the standings. The Dutchman in the red win at the 4th round of the season, made it back to Singapore as well. He is definitely scored 1 point at Bahrain, going pointless. It just shows you how quickly you can turn around a season, even if you have 1 or 2 slightly underwhelming results. Chris has shown he can bounce back, and sometimes you need that, especially if he wants to go for that top 3. He's capable.
Yeah, I think he can get top 2, I think. I'm almost certain he can get top 2, but we'll see as well. Gazza, I think, Gazza needs to help his teammate. Red Bull are winning in a good shot of possibly climbing their way up the standings as well. I could see Gazza up there as well. TC, I've seen a massive improvement. I think he can carry on, and if he keeps on that good results, I think he can carry on with those consistent podiums as well. And maybe Catboy Key can continue his run of form. He got his first point of the season last time about, and, you know, again, it's that M word, like we keep saying, momentum, and, you know, he's not bottom of the championship anymore, Catboy Key. He's now climbed his way up a bit, because he's not just got 1 point, he hasn't got just 2 points, he's now got 4 points now. So the ones that are on 1, 2 points, they're going to drop way down due to Catboy Key's good results. So, you know, I think Haas are going to be happy with that, and I could see him a good run of form during the next half of the season.
Season and thinking, what else can we extract from our truth is there's a lot of drivers that can improve there. They have the potential to improve as well. I think most of the drivers here had pretty good results. We're all said and done. There's a couple of drivers who'll know that they haven't been, they haven't been as a bit of a wake-up call for the second half of the season. And I don't know about you, Jess, but you and Alex have struggled so far. But I know that you can turn around the second half of the season. There's the whole potential to, because as you say, Canada's next. It's one of my favourite tracks, for me at least. I
like Canada in a way because it's a lot of fun, a lot of flowing corners as well. So I think we could see both of us do well. Singapore's not going to be the first time we get into the top 10 again, I must say. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see about that. So hopefully that will happen. But we'll have to wait for 2 weeks' time, of course, to see who will do well in Canada and who will not. But we talked about all the tiers. Usually in a normal talk show, that's it. End of the talk show, goodbye. But we still got one more thing to talk about, which I did hint at the start of the Paddock Pass. I keep calling it talk show. I do not know why. But anyway, as you know, on the 15th of May, it's going to be our second charity event of pretty much in 2 seasons. And yours truly, Kieran, is commentating along with Austin. And it's going to be around Germany. And the best part of it, you guys get to choose the weather, and you're probably going to scare me a lot there.
Yeah, I, if I say anything about the weather, I'll have said too much already. But yeah, we're racing in Austin's backyard, and we're picking the weather. So good luck with that. 100% race, full qualifying. So Q1, Q2, Q3. It's going to be a hell of a weekend. I can tell you that right now. What better way to finish off a Friday than by tuning into a 100% race full of One Hub legends that are racing, some of them getting back into the rig for the first time in quite a while as well. So great to see them back, and I'm looking forward to ruining everybody's day when they find out what the weather's going to be. No hints given.
Yeah, so I think I will hand this over to you, and we'll talk about which of the 20 drivers have signed up this season. Most of them have been in one. Actually, all of them have been in One Hub racer before. I think no one has not raced at One Hub, and it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 out of the 20 drivers are currently racing this season. And obviously, we've got one major face that we're going to talk about in a minute that's gone back into the racing seat after taking 2 seasons off. But I'll let you take this one and reveal who are the 20 drivers who are going to be racing in the 100% race.
I have to say, he likes his alcohol. Sean is back in the driving seat. Hopefully not driving under the influence, but the Dutchman is back, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him back in the box. Back on track, I should say. We shared a commentary box once, so I know what he's like. Quali night a couple of seasons ago. So I know what he's like. He's a good driver as well, and it'll be great to see him back there. You've also got White Fountain, Liam Darkbolt, who I believe raced in season 13. Sam, who is Pinnacle tier. I can't remember if it's X or current Pinnacle tier. That one
X.
goes away from me. Lukey, Shapalele, Zach, Dex are all racing. I think Owen has also been confirmed for the charity race. Cam, Hamilton, yourself, Jess, if you did not know already. Tenmu is coming into the charity race. You've got Aaron, you've got Jonas, Scorpion, the Hungarian in there, Gaza, Ash Best as well. And then, of course, you have to leave the last one till last. Is of course Nick, the very same Nick is coming back after a 2-season break to come back into the cockpit of a Formula One car for the first time in quite a long time. I think maybe he did the charity event last time out when we had the races at Abu Dhabi. I was joined by Odems for that one, and the safety car came out even though the damage was off. So hopefully it won't be as hectic as that when we go back there. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the charity event. It was such a huge success last time around when Odems and I did it for Abu Dhabi, I believe it was. The legends of it had a great time. They took it all in their stride. If they had a bad race, then they just got back onto it in the second race because it was reverse grid. So it's going to be very interesting. 100% race. I can see all 20 drivers hating myself and Austin by the end of the night. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, and if there's not going to be a hard race, I'm going to be disappointed. So I hope you don't disappoint us too much. I want some interesting weather predicaments, please, because I want to challenge myself, I must say. But there was quite a few people that were saying why they want to take part, and most of them are saying that One Hub is the best league that they've ever raced in. I think that's what a majority of people said, and obviously it's for charity as well. I mean, that's got to say what One Hub is about. They just want to have a bit of fun. They're not racing for points. They're not racing for the championship. They just want to race for pride and glory that they're doing something for the Mental Health Foundation, which is what we're raising money for this time.
Absolutely, and it's a fantastic charity. It's the partner charity here for One Hub. It's absolutely brilliant to see them. So please make sure you do turn up, even if you only just turn up to watch the racing. That's contribution enough. We would love to have you along with us, and hopefully we can deliver you a great night's racing. Can't wait to see you on the Friday.
Yeah, and I can't wait to be racing on that as well. And I will let Austin and Kieran go through the possible predictions of who might do well, I think, because otherwise we'll be here all night, and we don't want to do that. You just have to say that for Friday as well. So that is pretty much it for the Paddock Pass this evening. We hope you enjoyed it so much, and obviously, if you like what you see, don't forget to click the subscribe button on YouTube, and also follow us on Twitter at One Hub Racing. And before I forget, because the other commentators will probably have a go at me, check out our sponsors, Next Level Racing. They provide us great equipment. They'll be providing rigs to the winner from each tier as well. And obviously, you can get the products as well on their website. You can follow them at Next LVR Racing on Twitter as well. I can't remember what their Instagram is, but really good products as well. Make sure you check them out. And also check out our race premium drivers as well, who pay an extra £5 to support the league even more. And they get a guaranteed race seat each season. I think that's about 1 or 2 seasons, I believe. So there's quite a lot this season. So good to start. So thank you, Kieran, for joining me once again. It's been a while since we were both in the One Hub commentary box. It was great to be back, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and I can't wait for the next one already. It just flew by, this one, and hopefully we get some great action for the second half of the season where we can talk about it all over again.
Yeah, by the second half of the season we would find out who our 3 champions are. That will be exciting, won't it? So
we'll see if our predictions are right, yeah.
yeah, I hope so, but we'll see anyway. Probably I'll be proven wrong, but there we go. So we will see you all, we'll see you all this coming Friday at 7 o'clock, am I right? I should know because I'm the one that's doing the tweet. 7 p.m.
You are indeed.
Yeah, 7 p.m. Friday night for the charity event, which is going to be full quali actually, Q1, Q2 and Q3. That's going to be exciting. Austin and Kieran will be in the commentary box, so it should be a good laugh there. We'll see you then. Have a good evening, everybody, and good night.